One of my biggest light bulb moments when it comes to money was when I worked out what I needed to save and where to put it. If you're anything like me, you've probably grown up knowing you should be saving, but not really knowing exactly what those savings are for, other than probably a house at some point. But not knowing exactly what to save can lead to feelings of guilt because you're constantly worrying that you're not saving enough. And when you do spend money, you're thinking to yourself, oh, should I be saving this? I'm not really sure. Can I actually afford it? Well, we're going to get into that today with 3 categories of saving to hopefully bring you some clarity around your savings and how much to be putting aside. And if we've not met before, I'm Anna. I'm a certified financial education instructor and someone who's personally gone from being well educated but with not much idea what to do with my money, to being financially literate and money confident, which has frankly changed my life. Now I have the privilege of helping thousands of people every week understand money better, and I want to help you too. This is episode 6 of my series 10-Minute Money, so make sure you follow and subscribe for all the episodes so you don't miss one. Here are the 3 categories of savings that I would like to break down for you today. Number 1, savings which are actually for spending. Stay with me. Number 2, saving to improve your financial well-being. And number 3, saving to multiply your money and build wealth. Each of these categories are different regarding how much you should save for each and where you should keep them. But before we get into the 3 categories, we're going to start, as we do every week, with Guess the Stat, where I share a statistic with you at the start and you have to guess the correct answer by the end, where I share what the answer is. Here is the statistic for this week. What is the median amount that typical households in the UK save per month? You can do it to the nearest £10 and I will tell you the answer at the end. So guess now. Thank you to everyone joined in previous weeks. Love seeing your answers and I hope you get it right. Let's talk about these 3 categories and why I want to share them with you. If you Google now types of savings or what should I be saving for, you'll likely get 2 things come up. It'll be a list of bank accounts, different types of savings accounts you could get, or a blanket, you should save 20% of your income rule. Personally, I don't think either of these are massively helpful when you're starting out because you don't need a list of types of savings account until you know what you're saving for, because that will determine what kind of account you need. And also with a big blanket statement like that, 20% of your income you should be saving, I've got a problem with this for 2 reasons. Yes, it's helpful as a gauge, but if you're somebody who's just not been saving and you're looking to get going and start out, suddenly saying put aside 20% of your income can be extremely intimidating. And you might not even get started in the first place. And secondly, it's not detailed enough. What should that 20% be for? Should it be for one thing or should you be splitting it up for different types of savings? And if so, how should you split it up? So that's why we're getting into the 3 today. I'm going to start with category 1, which is the most basic type and is for everybody. And then we're going to go right through into category 3, which is more advanced. So category 1, then let's start there. The idea is to put money aside for things that you're already spending your money on, but you're just not planning for them. Take a moment and think about a year in your financial life. Do you ever have months where a huge expense comes in and completely throws you off, meaning you have to go into your overdraft or stick it on the credit card? One that I've got in mind is Christmas. If you celebrate Christmas, you'll know that it can be very expensive. So a lot of people, this is very common, end up paying off Christmas in January, February and beyond. I like to call category 1 savings smug savings. And the reason is because when you actually save up a little bit each month for these big expenses, you plan in advance and build up a pot for them. So when that expense comes in, you're ready with that pot sitting there. How are you going to feel? You're going to feel really smug. These savings are designed to stop you having to go into overdraft, stop having to put it on the credit card, and to make those months where that particular big expense falls into feel a lot less tight financially and a lot less stressful. How do you go about figuring out your smug savings? Well, the best thing to do is to zoom out and think about your year as a whole and try and work out what your big expenses are. Then you can divide each one, the total you need for each one, by the number of months that you want to save for it, and then start saving that amount every single month. You'll be pleased to hear that I have a worksheet for this to calculate your smug savings, which I'm including in my new resource, my budget template and walkthrough videos. Get yourself on the wait list for this in the link below this video or in my profile, or you never know, by the time you're watching this, it might already be available, so you can just go ahead and get it now. Category 1 savings then, to summarise, what I like to call smug savings, can reduce your money stress and make you feel more on top of your financial life and less nervous about big expenses because you've planned for them in advance. I highly recommend working these out, and you can go ahead and start saving for them straight away. Category number 2 is saving to improve your financial well-being. Alongside your smug savings, which should be happening all the time anyway, there are some foundations that need to be laid in our financial lives before we're ready to really start building wealth. The good news is you can calculate these very quickly, and once you know what those numbers are, those totals, you can make it your goal to get to those and tick them off. The foundations you need to build are paying off any high interest debt and building your emergency fund. Let me tell you something from both my own personal experience and from talking to the people that I work with in our money mentoring platform, that when you get ruthless about saving towards these two things to improve your financial well-being, it's absolutely life-changing on the journey and when you get there. If you've ever been in debt, you'll know that it hangs over you and there's always that feeling of dread having it sitting there. But when you finally pay off your debt, or even just the process of seeing it go down and paying it off, it's extremely rewarding and can really boost your money confidence. This is also true for building an emergency fund, which I didn't realize until I did it myself. So if you don't have an emergency fund, you haven't got a backstop or a buffer if anything should happen to your income or a huge expense comes in that you were not expecting. Many of us walk around with this low level of anxiety around money because we know it wouldn't take much for us to be pushed into overdraft and then into debt. Back to our original question, how much should you be saving for these? Surely I'm not saying you can do both at the same time. Well, step 1 is to calculate the total of each one. What is the total amount of debt that you need to pay off? You can list these out and get your total. Similarly, what should your emergency fund be? If you've never calculated one of these before, it should be about 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses. Step 2 is to then work out how much you can afford to save towards these each month. The way to work this out is to get very, very clear on what your margin is in your finances each month. And what I mean by that is the difference between your income and your outgoings. If you need help working this out, which is a crucial part of being able to reach your goals as quickly as possible, my budget template and walkthrough that I've already mentioned will help you do this. I've got worksheets in there to help you work out exactly what you could be putting aside, calculate that, and get there as quick as you possibly can. Like I said earlier, get yourself on the waitlist for this in the link below this video or in my profile, or if it's already available, go ahead and get hold of it now. Step number 3 is then to figure out where you're going to put that money. You can either start paying off your debt, paying off the principal as well as your minimum payments, or if you're going to be saving for your emergency fund, which is probably the best thing to do first so that you haven't got to go into further debt if there is a big expense comes in or something does happen to your income. One thing to do is to go to a comparison website and find a really good savings account. What you're looking for is an easy access account so you can access the money if there is an emergency, but is as high interest rate as you can possibly get so that you can still earn while it's sitting there. If you have further questions about this category, do let me know in the comments. Right, well, we've covered 2 categories already. Category 1, your smug savings, so you can get ahead in your life. And category 2 is saving to help improve your financial well-being. Now, category 3 is the advanced option, and this is where you start saving to build wealth. Beginning investing, it could be building up an entrepreneur fund so that you can start that business or that side hustle. It could be saving up for an investment property or saving up for a house of your own, which can be an investment of its own kind. Or it could be saving up to invest in yourself and your skill set so that you can increase your earning potential. This goes alongside your smug savings, which should be happening anyway, and after paying off high interest debt and building an emergency fund. If you are looking to save in this category, I do recommend you start in a similar place in category 2, which is to look at your margin, figure out how much you can put aside by reducing your expenses, looking at your spending, and really getting clear on what it could be for you. For some people, it might be 10% of your income, 20%. Some people, it might even be more because you're living at home with your parents and you've got very few outgoings, but you've got a decent income. The more you can put aside, the more potential you have to multiply your money and build wealth. I'm not going to give you a set percentage for this because I think it's something, again, you need to calculate. You can use the resources I've already mentioned based on your circumstances and what's feasible for you. Those are the 3 categories of saving that I wanted to share with you today. And I do hope it brings you some clarity on what your next step might be and what you need to focus on. Please make sure you like this video if you found it helpful today, or follow or subscribe to find out more about how to manage your money in the best way you possibly can. We've got to end, of course, with the answer to guess the stat for today. I asked you, what is the median amount that typical households in the UK save per month? The answer is £180. How did you do? Did you get it right? Was that a surprise? Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you in episode 7.